Everyone said that Christianity was finished. Gen Z was supposed to be the most secular generation in history, raised on TikTok, science, and irony, especially outside of the West, especially in places like Morocco, where conversion is dangerous, hidden, and deeply personal. And yet, something unexpected is happening. Young people are not just curious about Christianity, they are converting, and they are showing up, they are choosing faith. In the US, in Europe, and quietly, even in Muslim majority countries, this is not nostalgia, this is not culture, this is a generation making a choice. For decades, the story was simple. Each generation believed less, attended church less, prayed less, and Gen Z was supposed to finish the job. But new data from the last few years is forcing researchers, pastors, and bishops to rethink everything. Because while some churches are emptying, others are filling. And surprisingly, it is young adults leading the way. Today, we are going to look at three things: the fall, the rise, and the deeper reason behind that rise. And yes, we are grounding this in real data, not vibes. Let's be honest about the collapse first. Christianity did decline hard. In the United States, Pew Research shows that Christian identification fell from about 78% in 2007 to 63% in 2021. Among young adults, the drop was even sharper. Catholicism was hit especially hard. Mass attendance declined. Vocations dropped. Scandals shattered trust. Many young people associated the church with hypocrisy, politics, or empty ritual. Gen Z was labeled the nuns. No religion, no affiliation, no interest. And for a while, that label was correct. COVID made it worse. Lockdowns broke habits. Many never returned. If the story ended there, the headlines would be right. But the story did not end there. Here is where the narrative breaks. Post pandemic data shows something new forming. According to Barna Group research released between 2023 and 2025, Gen Z church attendance rebounded faster than any other generation after COVID. Now, let's be precise. It is true that older generations still attend at high rates overall, but the growth trend belongs to Gen Z and Millennials. Barna reports that Gen Z attendance frequency has been rising year over year since 2021, while Boomers and Gen X continue to decline. That is the key shift: momentum. Even more surprising is gender. For decades, women were more religious than men, always. But recent Barna data shows young men closing that gap dramatically, and in some surveys, even reporting higher weekly attendance than young women. This is not universal yet, but the reversal trend is real. Sociologists like Mark Regnerus points to a crisis of meaning among young men: loneliness, porn, aimlessness, and a search for structure. Catholic parishes that emphasize discipline, reverence, confession, and sacrifice are seeing young men show up more often than ever. Latin Mass communities, campus Newman centers, traditional prayer groups — this is not casual Christianity. This is costly Christianity. So, why is this happening? First, the collapse of DIY spirituality. Gen Z was offered a spiritual buffet: meditation apps, manifestation, astrology, wellness spirituality. Researchers like Tara Isabella Burton have shown that this approach feels empowering at first, but hollow over time. No authority, no sacrifice, no truth claim strong enough to suffer for. Catholicism offers the total opposite: a 2,000-year-old intellectual tradition, rituals that do not bend to trends, a moral framework that demands something. In a world that feels fake, the church feels heavy. In a way, it feels real. Second, structure and chaos. Gen Z grew with a crisis as background noise: pandemics, economic instability, climate anxiety, digital overload. In that context, liturgy does not feel restrictive, it feels grounding. The calendar of feasts, the rhythm of confession and Eucharist, the idea that suffering has meaning — this is deeply attractive. Now, let's talk about Morocco. There are no official statistics showing large-scale Christian conversion among young Gen Z that are Moroccan, and anyone claiming exact numbers is lying. But absence of data is not absence of reality. Human Rights Watch, Pew, and multiple academic studies confirm three things. One, religious conversion in Morocco is legally restricted and socially dangerous. It often happens underground. Two, younger Moroccans show higher levels of questioning traditional religious authority than older generations. And three, access to global media, scripture apps, and online Christian testimony is widespread. Christian NGOs and missiological researchers consistently report quiet but steady growth of secret believers across North Africa, often driven by dreams, personal encounters, and online exploration. Youth for Christ and other global Christian organizations reported measurable increases in young people identifying as followers of Jesus globally between 2020 and 2024, especially in the global south. This is not a Western phenomenon, it is experimental. Many Gen Z converts do not start with theology, they start with an encounter, a dream, an answered prayer, or a sense of peace that they simply cannot explain. Only later do they search for doctrine, and many land in the Catholic Church, precisely because it claims continuity, not innovation. This does not guarantee a revival. Gen Z is allergic to hypocrisy. They will leave again if the church offers performance instead of holiness. What keeps them is depth, clear teaching, intellectual seriousness, sacraments treated as sacred, community that lives the faith outside of Sunday. Some scholars cautiously speak of a potential new awakening, not emotional, not cultural, but chosen. They were called the generation that would bury Christianity. Instead, many are rebuilding it, quietly, intentionally, and at a great cost. If you want more content like this grounded in faith, data, and truth, subscribe. If you want to support this work directly, I have a Buy Me a Coffee page linked below in the description. Your support helps keep this channel independent and focused on substance, not algorithms. Thanks for watching. May God bless you and Our Lady keep you.